Is that you?
Good evening and welcome to a regular City Council meeting. Tonight is Tuesday, February 6th, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll start with the invocation tonight led by Ron Lawler, and I'll follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd invite you to stand and join us for the invocation and pledge.
For the invocation in honoring Black History Month, I'd like to offer one of the prayers of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Oh God, we thank you for the lives of great saints and prophets in the past who have revealed to us that we can stand up amid the problems and difficulties and trials of life and not give in. We thank you for our foreparents who've given us something in the midst of the darkness of exploitation and oppression to keep going. Grant that we will go on with the proper faith and the proper determination of will, so that we will be able to make a creative contribution to this world. In the name and spirit of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Lawler, and I forgot to mention Pastor at the Family Bible Church. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, nice to see a building full of police officers, especially when they're smiling. Welcome. Welcome to all, and all of you out there viewing. We have a couple of absent city councilors tonight, so I would entertain a motion. Yes, Councilor Servadius.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to excuse Councilmembers Heisen and Wassinger.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Motion by Servadius, second by Munns to excuse Councilors Heisen and Wassinger. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. I don't know what would happen if you opposed. But, okay. Rolling on. Item number 1 is approval of agenda. Any, Councilor Holmberg?
Well, I was just going to make the motion to approve it as presented.
Actually, I'd like to add an executive session at the end, 15 minutes. So, and I'll announce that at the end. Okay?
Yes, we have it in there.
So, under presentations, yes, Councilor Servadius?
Sorry, I'll second that.
Oh. Motion to approve the,
Agenda, it has an executive session, at least the one we're looking at does.
But
So.
it says none.
Oh, sorry, none. Sorry.
okay. So we still have a motion.
I'll give you a second.
Wait a minute,
Oh.
wait a minute.
We got to do this right.
Okay. So I amended the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve that?
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the amended agenda. Motion by Holmberg, second by Servadius. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Good. Now we get on to the fun stuff. Presentations. We have no proclamations tonight, but we do have some honors and recognitions. So I'm going to move over to the podium and ask Mayor Pro Tem to join me. A couple weeks ago, I was lucky enough to be presented with a fleece for 10 years that I've been connected to the city as an employee, and Mayor Pro Tem Munns joined me during that presentation, and I felt a little funny because she actually got started on city council a couple months before I did, and I knew that she hadn't gotten a presentation of her own fleece, but we've invited her here tonight to accept her 10-year fleece. Mayor Pro Tem is a native of San Antonio, Texas. She attended Stevens College in Columbia, Missouri, earning a bachelor's degree in clinical psychology and certification for kindergarten through 12th grade art education. Beth married Larry Munns, who's in the audience here tonight, in June of 1974, and they have 2 children. Larry is a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy and retired from the Navy in 1999 as a commander of NAS Whidbey Island. During his career, Ms. Munns was involved with various officer wives clubs, ombudsman programs, training for commanding officer and executive officer wives, and general Navy support groups. She is serving her third term as a council member for the city of Oak Harbor, and as I mentioned, she is our mayor pro tem. She is vigorously involved with her community and groups. There is a list of about 10 or 12 groups, including United Way, WSU Master Gardeners, Oak Harbor Youth Sailing Foundation, Island Thrift, wonderful organization. She's a board member there. City of Oak Harbor Planning Commission, she served there for 6 years. Navy League National Director, Municipal Research and Services Center, she's a board of directors, and also very important to the rest of us, she has served as a director on the Association of Washington Cities, the AWC. So I think you get the top one here, and there's your pin, and thank you for 10 great years.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that's my husband, we take turns supporting each other. But I'd like to say thank you to my city family. I am thrilled to be part of a team. I don't have any more hierarchy than anybody else. But truly, I like being part of a team and working and getting things done to improve everyone's life in the city. So thank you very much.
Okay, next on our list is, I think, our Chief of Police, Chief Dresker, has a presentation to make.
I believe so. Thank you, Mayor and council members. And Manny conveniently set his alarm to go off to let us know when it's his turn. Manny, if I could get you up here, please. I'm going to scoot this over this way a little bit, Manny. So we have a couple things today. The first one that I have is the 10-year presentation to Officer Silveira. And I want to make sure before I forget, thank everybody, all the staff from Oak Harbor PD that are here. We have some volunteers and community members here, and I very much appreciate them being out here. And of course, thank you, Manny, for being here. I'm going to probably indulge on Manny a little bit, but Manny has been with us for 10 years, a lot longer than me. And Manny, New Jersey? Rhode Island is where he came from at some point, and was it retired Navy?
Retired Navy, 23 years.
So he's got a little bit of a familiarity with what's going on in Oak Harbor and the surrounding area. Manny is an outstanding officer for us, and we recently converted our duty firearms from one caliber to another, which is quite an endeavor. And Manny took the lead on doing that for us. Was very good in communicating with the company that we dealt with. A lot of work along with the firearms. I see Sergeant Lloyd out there, and I believe Ron Esparza all had a part in that, but Manny led that up. He's our department armorer, one of the two. Does a fantastic job in that. And he served 6 years in detectives. 6 years in our detective division, and recently just rotated back to patrol. So he's bringing all that experience and expertise back to patrol, and is a great member of one of our shifts. So very much appreciate that. And Manny, you have somebody to introduce?
Yes, I'd like to introduce my beautiful wife of almost 30 years, Tina. Just have to tell her thank you very much for putting up with a big kid. I don't know how she does it. Thank you.
Good. So we have a fleece and a 10-year pin to present to you. Thank you for your service.
Okay, and I think we've got our Public Works Director, Kathy Rosen, coming up for a presentation.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Phil, would you join me up here, please? So tonight we are here to honor Phil Matthews for 20 years of service. Phil is the kind of employee that any supervisor would be very lucky to have. He is very motivated, he's a self-starter, and he is eager to take on new challenges. Phil started with the city on February 2nd, 1998 in a kind of a new position that we called the labor pool, where he floated around between the different divisions in public works, learning a little bit about each position or each division. He proved himself to be a highly motivated employee from the beginning, and when a position became available in wastewater a few months after his initial hire date, he jumped at the chance to learn new skills, and he became a wastewater treatment plant operator in training. Throughout his 20 years, he has moved up the ranks, and last March 2017, he was promoted to the wastewater treatment plant supervisor. So he is the main person responsible for all of our wastewater operations in the city. So I'm very proud of him for that and appreciate all of his efforts. He holds his wastewater collection certificate, and he's a wastewater treatment plant operator certification group 3 with Washington State. He's got such a strong work ethic. He's dedicated, reliable, and professional, and we are very, very fortunate to have him, and I'd like to congratulate him on his 20 years.
I'd like to introduce my family. My wife, Dana, my daughter, Cherise, my son, Ethan, my 2 grandsons, and my, I guess, adopted son. When I first started with the city, the first day, Rich Ty House, he handed me a bucket and a brush, and he told me to go out and brush or clean the fence up at Public Works. Someone sprayed some pesticide or something on there. And I thought that was just the greatest thing, because I felt to myself, I made it finally. I applied for the city 3 times, had 2 interviews, and finally got the job. And when I started, I never stopped. And why I'm here tonight is I want to thank the citizens of Oak Harbor for giving me a chance to live the American dream, to raise a family. I am one of the luckiest people that I can think of. 10 years ago, I looked at the folks and I said that I love my job. And tonight I say the same thing. I love my job. Thank you, Oak Harbor.
And thank you, Phil. Okay, I think we're going to have another, this will be an oath of office, and our Chief Dresker is back at the podium.
I know it's a tough act to follow right there. Okay, Mayor, council members, again, thank you for letting me be here. We are always pleased to be here if we're smiling. If we're not, then we're not. So, a lot of people out in the, can you guys all see? More staff. Thank you guys for being here. There's room in here if you want to file in. Feel free, please. So I've had the honor and privilege, this will be my 3rd promotion since I've been with the department here in October of 2016. Oh my goodness. So this will be my 3rd, and I'm very happy to be doing this. Thanks, guys. So I want to just talk a little bit about what we're doing here today. So Bill, can you come up here with me, please? And I'm going to make sure that Manny keeps Bill in line too. So what Oak Harbor Police Department, we have 26 authorized strength for FTEs for commissioned officers. So in a restructuring, reorganization, we're not adding any FTEs. We're just changing our organizational structure a little bit. So Bill has been a sergeant with Oak Harbor Police Department for 19 years, and we're moving him to a captain's position. So he will join wherever, right over there. He'll join Mike Bailey as a 2nd captain. They'll have some divisions of responsibility. Bill Wilkie will be in charge of what we call the Patrol Bureau, Operations Bureau. So he'll be in charge of patrol, detectives, and a bunch of ancillary duties, a whole bunch of ancillary duties. So we've already got him working, so we're very, very proud to be able to recognize him today. And again, I want to thank all the Oak Harbor Police Department people who are here to honor Bill with that. So Bill's got some family here. I'm going to let him introduce them right now. I know that when we get to the pinning, he's going to have one of them pin on his badge for him. So, Bill, do you want to introduce?
Sure. Most of them are in the front row here. Well, all of them are. I have my girlfriend Ginger, my daughter Madison next to her, my son Bryant, his longtime girlfriend who's like a daughter to me, Caitlin, and my father Bill, and his friend who knew me when I was a young guy, Chuck on the end there. So they've given me a lot of unconditional love and support, and I really appreciate them being here. They've helped make this possible.
So Bill has been, I think we were just talking about it today, I think he joined Oak Harbor Police Department, was it 92?
1990.
1990, he joined the Oak Harbor Police Department, so he's been here and has taken stake in the department, see a lot of transition, and now as part of the department and as part of the administrative team, he'll be a big part of moving us forward along with the rest of the staff. And I know he has the support of the rest of the staff. Bill's well respected and well liked. I've had a lot of people from outside our organization talk about how good of a choice it is to have Bill moving up to join Captain Bailey in that position. I think he's got a little fire hose right now going on where he's just getting inundated with a lot, but that happens to everybody when they move into a new position. He's doing great, and he'll be a great addition. Bill has served in, I think, most every capacity. I don't think he was an SRO, but he was a detective. He's been in a lot of capacities, a lot of different areas within the department, so we're happy to have him on here. So what we'll do today is do the oath of office. We're going to see if we can get through that. We always have fun doing that up here. Not really, but it goes different. And we'll do that, and then we'll do the badge pinning. So, Bill, if you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, William Wilkie,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I am a citizen of the United States and the state of Washington,
that I'm a citizen of the United States and the state of Washington,
and that I will support the Constitution
and that I will support the Constitution
and the laws of the United States
and the laws of the United States
and the ordinances of the city of Oak Harbor,
and the ordinances of the city of Oak Harbor,
and that I will, to the best of my judgment,
and that I will, to the best of my judgment,
skill and ability,
skill and ability,
truly and faithfully,
truly and faithfully,
diligently and impartially,
diligently and impartially,
perform the duties of a captain
perform the duties of a captain
for the city of Oak Harbor, Washington,
for the city of Oak Harbor, Washington,
as such duties are prescribed by law and ordinance.
as such duties are prescribed by law and ordinance.
And I further swear
And I further swear
that I shall diligently and faithfully
that I shall diligently and faithfully
carry out the lawful directives
carry out the lawful directives
of the duly constituted authorities
of the duly constituted authorities
for the city of Oak Harbor,
for the city of Oak Harbor,
and that I shall abide by
and that I shall abide by
conduct rules of the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics.
conduct rules of the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics,
So help me God.
so help me God.
Nice job. Got
Thank
through
you,
that
Chief.
well. I forgot and do whatever the chief says. No. So we have a plaque for Bill in recognition of his promotion. So Bill, this is for you.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
And then the next step is we're going to have Bill's badge pinned on. So Bill gets, he's sporting the captain insignia on his collars, and now he'll exchange his sergeant's badge for the captain badge, and he's going to have whoever pin that on.
Madison, my daughter.
I'll take that, Bill.
Thank you, Chief.
You're going good.
Don't poke me.
So,
Thank you, Chief Dresker. Thank you, Mayor, City Council. I'm really excited about this opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to the challenges ahead. I want to thank all of the Oak Harbor Police Department officers and staff. They've all had a chance to work with me over the years, and there's a little part of me from each one of them that they've helped develop. Hopefully, I've done the same to them. And I'm really looking forward to continue working with this great group to make Oak Harbor a safe and great place to live. It's already there, but we're going to continue doing that. I'm really looking forward to where we're going with this department. and the leadership, and hopefully I can continue helping in that direction. And again, I just want to thank my family for being here. They're a very important part of my life, and it's tough being a child, a girlfriend, a father, or whoever of a police officer because of, the shift work, working nights, wondering if your father or mother is going to come home. They deserve a lot of credit for, taking this 28-year journey with me. So I want to thank them. And if we could give a hand to all the officers here, I'd appreciate it.
So we're going to take about a 5-minute recess here and congratulate the new captain.
And I think you can see why we chose him.
Call the meeting back to order at this time and congratulate those who were just recognized and Captain Wilkie again. It's my understanding we're going to actually get to the consent agenda after a couple more presentations, but I've been told that one of the appointments is in the audience tonight. Has been a longtime volunteer of the police department, and he's joining the Community Advisory Board, the Police Community Advisory Board. Les McCormick, please stand, and thank you very much. We'll take the appropriate action when we get there, okay? Okay. So under community presentations, this is section 2C of the agenda. We're going to start with the first of two, and I'd like to introduce two people that will be making the presentation from the Washington State Department of Transportation. We have Gabe Ng and Jay Dry. Come forward, and thanks for coming to Oak Harbor.
All right. Well, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for allowing us to take a little time on your agenda this evening. So we thought it would be a nice time to, we've been doing a lot of outreach, but we thought it would be good to come to the council and share a little bit of information here with you that we've been sharing with various groups throughout the area, and had a big open house event here in the community last week as well. But we're going to hit on probably the most important project to a lot of people driving through the Sharps Corner area, and hit on that job. So Gabe's going to talk about that. He's the project engineer working on that project, and probably spend the majority of our time focused on that and explaining what to expect here in the next few months. And then we'll kind of hit through some other projects coming up in kind of the future years, not this coming year, but the out years, and we'll run through those a little bit quicker. So with that, I'll let Gabe talk about Sharps Corner.
Thanks, Jay. Can I advance that there? Okay. All right, thanks again. So we'll start with Sharps Corner. Most of you guys come through that direction. This project has been, for years we've been working on this, getting this out. Finally, we're here. So it's been over 10 years of funded, unfunded. Now we're finally funded through Connecting Washington. We've got a practical solution that we're happy with. The focus of this project is safety and mobility for the intersection and traveling public. Whoops, sorry. All right, so you guys are familiar with the area. So the timeline is really quick. It's coming up. We have a contractor, Tapany Inc., who will be the contractor, and we're starting April. We went out to the public, as Jay had said, and we asked them, how do you want to approach this? The consensus was to stay away during the summer season, the peak season, and so we listened to that, and so we basically came to a compressed construction season that's going to put this starting in the spring. So our goal here is and our schedule is to complete this all by July 4th, and so it's going to be intense, 24/7. This is kind of the rip off the Band-Aid approach, but this is ultimately what we came up with based on the feedback that we got from a lot of our outreach stakeholders, property owners. This is in the city of Anacortes, and so we've been reaching out to them as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit in detail, but I'll give an overview real quick just since we have the picture here. So this is Sharps Corner. Miller-Gibraltar intersection is up around here. The work is going to start up at Miller-Gibraltar. We're going to complete that roundabout first in the month of April into May, and then we're going to come down into Sharps Corner, and we're going to start into that May and June. So I'll get into more detail about that. Okay, starting with Miller-Gibraltar intersection. So what we're going to have here is we're going to have a flagging 24/7 through this intersection. This is going to be about a 2-week long duration. And we're going to be flip-flopping traffic, trying to build this intersection or build this roundabout on one side and then flipping to the other side. All accesses to Miller-Gibraltar will be open. It'll just be a flagged operation, so expect the timing and delays during the peak times. I'll say this now, I'll probably say it again, and you'll hear this over and over again, is to find alternative routes, which are very little. Also find, go during non-peak hours, telework, find alternatives, take a vacation. This is, it's kind of what the outreach, is we can kind of get there's only one real true route on and off the island other than ferries. So this is it. So we do have a way through it. It's just not going to be, the perfect solution. So we found a good alternative here. So like I said, this phasing of Mill Gibraltar will be about a month. This is kind of the configuration that you'll see at the completion of this Mill Gibraltar, and this will provide a safer intersection. Okay, so now jumping into the timeline for Sharps Corner. So I failed to mention those purple areas, if you haven't figured it out, are the areas of construction. And I know it's hard to see, but I'll try to explain it, and I'll get into more detail with the pointer here in a minute on directions. So we'll start, first phase of work is basically working on the periphery. We're working on a bypass lane, a slip lane. One kind of exists now, but it's going to be separated even further. We're also working on a bypass lane up here on the north end as well. We'll be reducing all directions to a single lane coming into the intersection, so that'll be something noticeable. These closures will be around the clock, and the contractor, like I said, will be working 24/7 to complete this work. This work is expected to start early to mid-May, and this one's about 2 weeks as well. Okay, so by this time we're up to Memorial Day weekend. So Memorial Day weekend, we're not impacting traffic, other than we have lanes reduced to one lane in all directions. Otherwise, we're not impacting traffic. It's a holiday weekend. We're getting out of the way. There's about 5 days in there that we're not impacting traffic. This slip lane will then be installed by that time. So for everyone in Oak Harbor wanting to go to Burlington, you get your own lane. So I wanted to focus on that in this meeting, right? So everyone's happy with that. Okay, so the next one. This one is after Memorial Day weekend. If you want to know when to stay away, this is the weekend to stay away. The 2 weeks after Memorial Day weekend is kind of the one where we're going to be doing more of the significant changes, and that's basically allows us to build the inside of this roundabout. This is going to help the contractor be able to build this in the 2 weeks as we have scheduled. We've provided incentives and disincentives to get the contractor to complete this. So the 2 weeks after Memorial Day weekend are the weeks that you'll still have the slip lane, so actually it won't be too bad for folks on the island leaving. The one thing that you guys will have to consider is coming back, and I'll get into more detail here. You'll end up crossing over, and you'll end up slipping your own single lane that comes back up here. This will be free flow. There's no signals, or there's no signals, no stop conditions. It'll all be free flow conditions. So this is kind of the bigger. I got another slide after this that just kind of focuses on the map, but I'll kind of maybe I'll just go to the next slide. All those bullets just kind of explain the directions, but this map's probably going to help better. So hopefully you guys can see this mouse. So if you're heading from Burlington and you want to go to Anacortes, you basically have your own slip lane, and you just slide through and you're good. Coming back from Anacortes, this is probably the more difficult route, is that we're going to force you to turn a right turn at the intersection up the hill to Miller Gibraltar and use the roundabout as a U-turn, and then back down the hill, and then you'll have your own slip lane to kind of continue on. No stop condition. It's basically a mile. You're adding a mile. It's half a mile up the hill and a half a mile down the hill. So you're basically adding a mile to a one-way commute. If you're traveling to Oak Harbor from Burlington, like I said before, you're gonna cross over. We're gonna have it all delineated with traffic control devices, and you'll use this slip lane, and you're coming backwards up traffic, and then you'll merge naturally into the highway and go through the roundabout and carry on. If you're coming from Oak Harbor and you want to go to Anacortes, you'll be coming down, again, staying to the right. Once you get to March's Point, we do have allowing a U-turn at that intersection, and so that's the least volume turn at that intersection. But again, this is a 2-week time period. It has been a challenge, but I think this is something we feel really confident that's going to work. As long as we're doing the proper outreach to folks to tell them that this is happening, here's the path, here's the plan, and get everyone prepared for it. And there's the beautiful completed roundabout, and so that it's expected to be complete. Basically 98% of it's complete by the July 4th weekend. There'll be some final striping that we'll do, later into the summer, but that shouldn't be impacting traffic. We'll have temporary striping down, but it should be. We have landscaping. The center probably won't be fully landscaped. Maybe. It depends on how the contractor wants to push that. But ultimately, the last few items would be striping, and landscaping would be something that we do probably in the later summer or fall. So that concludes the projects that are coming up. So those are the ones you really need to worry about. This is the one that's happening. So now that I'm going to go into projects that are coming down the pipe in a year to 2 years, and so these are probably more closer to home down the island. So this one, SR 20 Banter Road, Northgate Drive intersection safety improvements. This is funded by the FLAP Federal Lands Access Program. So this is on the north end of the Navy base. So this is a safety issue. There's definitely some 25 total crashes since 2011, 11 were injury crashes. There's some backups during the peak hours and people trying to find gaps. So there's definitely a safety concern that we're going to be addressing. We're looking at both options right now, a signal and a roundabout. We're finding roundabouts provide higher safety level. We haven't made the decision yet, but some of the benefits of the roundabout have been, for example, 8 conflict points versus signal that has 32 conflict points. Our job as engineers is to provide safety to the public and improve the mobility as well. So roundabouts are lower speeds, keeping traffic flowing. It adjusts to peak flows naturally without signal timings. Like I said, the speeds are slow as well. Here's an example, kind of a diagram that kind of shows the conflict points of an intersection and a roundabout. Like I said before, you have lower speeds in a roundabout, so not only you have less conflict points, but your conflict points are not, crossing like a T-bone of some sort. Is kind of more of the serious accidents that occur. So now hand it over to Jay, and he'll talk a little bit more, a couple more projects we have down the pipe.
All right, so hitting on some more jobs that may be of interest. This is a project that is kind of along the lines of making sure that we take care of all the assets that we've got on the system. And so Deception Pass, the Deception and Canoe Pass bridges are coming up for a new paint job. So, and not like painting your house, a little bit more complex, trying to go through and paint that. Let's see, a little bit more information on that. So part of it is the painting, and also you'll hear the term special repair. Probably most people won't notice. That's really going through and identifying any of the members that have corroded that need to be updated and repaired or replaced. So we'll be going through and assessing all of those and, basically making sure that everything's taken care of and the structure's still completely structurally sufficient and in good shape. Probably some interesting things to note about that. Right now it's scheduled to start in 2019, and that would be a 2-season job. So it will carry on all the way until 2020 in the fall. Most people probably won't notice too much of an impact as a result of that. Most of the work will be down underneath the roadway, where they'll be working in sections where they'll mask off an area, they'll tent it all off, clean. We've got to take it all the way down to the metal and reprime everything and bring it back up. So it's quite the extensive process working their way through, and they can only do a small section at a time due to loading and stuff on the bridge structure, everything from the loads from the construction and also the wind loads. So, and we'll try to work right through the winter on that, as long as probably the biggest thing that would affect us would be the winds on all the temporary tarping and stuff and the sail effect that would create on the structure. So fairly extensive from a cost-wise, pretty big painting project for us. Right now budgeted at $22.6 million, so a little bit more than what it cost to originally build those bridges. So, and this just shows kind of some of the things that we'll be going through and cleaning up and taking care of some of the structures or some of the steel members and the drainage structures that just need to be cleaned up and updated. So another project that's even closer to home, another paving project coming to kind of the Oak Harbor area. So Boone Road vicinity to Altfield Road, and that's the outside benchmarks to that. So we did the piece in the middle through town. What was that, about 4 years ago that we did the piece through there that was probably much more of an impact for the city itself, but we've got the pieces right outside on either end of town that we need to come back and we need to go through and resurface. So kind of a similar operation, probably won't be nearly as intrusive or as big of an impact to the city as the last time we were paving in the area, but kind of a similar approach. Whenever we're doing the paving work, we have to stay in federal compliance, we have to bring up the Americans with Disability Act, ADA access to the roadway. So addressing the curb ramps and stuff going down in. So that work will typically be done during the day, not too much of a traffic impact associated with that. And then the paving work will predominantly be done at night. So as we've said before, been doing a lot of outreach on a lot of projects. We had a really good event here in town last week with over 120 people that came out. Appreciate the city of Oak Harbor coming out and participating with us and talking about some of the projects going on here within the city. And we're also joined by Island County and Island Transit. We're there as well. So a good coordinated effort, and seemed like the feedback was pretty positive that we were all there together, all the different entities representing the project. So got some of the quotes up there, and we had our display that we like passing around and showing, gives people that's a display of the Sharps Corner project. So that's a scale model that fits in with the size of the Matchbox cars, and so people are able to maneuver and get a little bit better sense as to how the Sharps Corner roundabout will operate. So helping people get a little bit more comfortable with how that'll feel once it's actually in place. So all the outreach up to this point in time for the Sharps Corner project has been pretty extensive, but I think we want people to be aware we're going to continue to be available and continue to be reaching out to people. Andrea Petrich is our communications person. She provides pretty regular updates through social media, through all the different sources, and Twitter and Facebook, and it's all out there. And then obviously if groups have an interest in learning more about our projects too, or if they'd like us to come present information to them, we always try to be available, and one of us come out and talk about the projects that we got going on, and big important project like Sharps Corner too, helping to address any concerns associated with it. So.
Okay. That concludes?
That concludes.
Okay.
I don't
Thank
know.
you, Gabe and Jay. We appreciate it. Any questions from the council? Yes, Councilor Servadius.
Thank you. One question was on the crosswalk. Anacortes, if someone was coming from Anacortes to Oak Harbor, those 2 lanes, is that bike trail crosswalk merely striped? Is there any lighting there to give the pedestrian an advantage?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It'll be lit, so it'll be an actuated, active signal for when people
So
are
like the
there.
blinking yellows like
Yep.
we might have here? Okay,
Yep.
super.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then the paint had a question on the bridge. You
Yeah.
mentioned they're taking it down to bare metal, the entire bridge or just some areas?
No, they'll do it as they work their way through the entire thing. Yeah.
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 Impressive. Thank you.
Councilor Oldenburg?
Thank you. And I wanted to follow up on the question by Councilmember Servadius. On that crosswalk for bicyclists, is that activated light farther up the segment up the lane? It's not right at the roundabout, is it?
So it's pretty close to the roundabout. So it's just, what is it, 50 feet?
Yeah, we can cycle back to it real quick. No, there it is. So yeah, no, it's right there on that south leg where it needs to be. Any further away, you have speeds too high, and so that's the ideal location where it needs to be. Are you talking about an actuator? Are we talking about also the buttons?
Is that what you were proposing?
Yes.
That
yes.
was my question. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, and
So there's a refuge island there, two of them?
Yes.
Okay. Then the next question I had was, is driving in roundabouts included in driver's education in this state? Do you know that?
I believe it is. I believe,
Okay.
and if not, I know this DOT we have our pamphlets and we have a website that actually will help you. And we're continuing to do outreach to help with this. And if you guys need more support, we have that. I'm working on something behind the scenes to try to put together a video to help explain that a little bit better too. So if I can get that to happen, I'll be able to post that as well. But we already have that online, a roundabout and how to drive a roundabout. And we were talking about bringing that model. And if you guys have an opportunity where you have a public event where we can bring it and it can set out and people can drive cars on it, it's good to have even some of the law enforcement there to help kind of identify the rules and the road and laws and what's illegal and what's not. So I think it's something that we include as part of this. We can't just plop it in there and expect you guys to figure it out. There's definitely the education, and we're there to support that.
Well, I personally like the roundabouts for all the reasons that you had stated earlier. The culture in Europe is they emphasize yielding to the left. Our culture here is yield to the right, which causes problems in the roundabout. The right-of-way goes to the person has to yield to the left, or the person approaching the roundabout has the right-of-way.
The person in the roundabout
has the right of way,
Correct.
and if they want to change lanes and come out, you're supposed to let them out,
Yeah.
theoretically.
Yeah.
The good thing is, at that point in time, if there is a dilemma, everybody's going slow.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if there is a problem, that's why our traffic engineers really like them from a safety standpoint. But it's got to be in the right place.
Thank
as
you.
well.
Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you again.
All right, thank you.
Nice program, thanks.
And we did, I might add that we did put a few different pamphlets over there of upcoming construction projects that we have in the entire general area that people may be interested in, and there is a pamphlet over there on the roundabouts as well, so just some general information. So we'll
Great.
leave that as well.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the last item under community presentations. Oak Harbor Chamber of Commerce Annual Report, and the Executive Director from the Chamber is here to make that presentation. Welcome, Christine Cribb.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you tonight. I'm left-handed, so I'm going to have to move things over here a little bit. I am, let's see, going to get situated here. I can't seem to click for some reason. I'm doing that, it's not working. Am I not in the right spot? Well, while they work that out, I will share the mission of the Chamber of Commerce. How's that? To serve and promote the business interest of Greater Whidbey Island. There we go. Our theme for our last board retreat was reflect on the past and be a force for the future. We are the primary advocate empowering and connecting members to achieve their business goals. Do I not get to play? I even came in early and made sure it worked perfectly. There we go. As the Chamber of Commerce, we wear 5 different hats. We are membership, we are a 501c6, we are a membership-driven nonprofit organization. We run Visitor Information Center. We operate events, host and coordinate events. We have community partnerships, and we are the arm of the marketing for the city of Oak Harbor. That great picture in the lower left-hand corner, We didn't mean to kill a tree. However, in October, we lay out a big line of butcher paper in the conference room, and we start laying out all the events in the community, all the events in the area, surrounding areas, and then everyone's tasks on staff and how much can we pack into a year. And in front of you is the calendar. I gave a little packet ahead of time. We have not only our strategic plan for 2018, but we have a calendar of events to show you what all the chamber is doing every month. Next slide. Thank you. Our funding comes from 5 sources also. We have membership. We have sponsorship, which now is at $100,000 worth of sponsorships are offered throughout the year. Fundraising, the 2 carnivals that come to town are our largest fundraising events. And in kinds, if you can look at the paint and the new flooring and the landscaping, the bark that's just been put down on all the beds, the thousands of tulips that are planted around the chamber, those are all done through in-kinds, through membership. Members just wanting to give back and be part of the chamber. And of course, we are funded through grants, and the city's one of our hugest supporters through grants. Membership, our philosophy is networking, visibility, and advocacy. And we have 509 members right now. We just brought on Would-Be Telecom as I left the office today. So in your packet is also a copy of short takes, which goes out to every member every week that shows you what all is going on at the chamber. We have a philosophy for membership and guests at the Visitor Information Center that we do not answer any question with the word no. So if you come in with a question, anything from a sweet little old lady that came in and asked, how could she have dual citizenship from Canada and United States? Well, the interns had just heard my spiel. We don't say the word no. And sure enough, they did the research and gave this lady a little packet on how that actually happens. So we don't say the word no. Next slide. These are 20-some of our programs that we run just for memberships, over 25 of them. Our most popular recently is the Career Cafe, which is the first Friday of every month. We have at least 6 businesses with a targeted topic of who has openings in the community, positions in a partnership with WorkSource, who brings in potential candidates. In January, we had over 100 positions open on the island in just the health field alone. And we had people lined up at the door to come in and interview for those jobs. So that's pretty exciting. This week, we have L&I workshop to explain all the new rulings for labor and industries. And of course, NDOC is one of our most popular programs where members get to introduce their collateral to new people coming in from the Navy. And that happens monthly. And coming in 2019, at the very bottom there, it says coming shoulder season 2019, we're coordinating a professional women's conference to come here to Oak Harbor. So we're pretty excited about that. Membership programs also, we have an Oak Harbor High School scholarship. We have a Light Up Oak Harbor, which I hope everyone knows, all those little white lights. We try to coordinate businesses to showcase Oak Harbor during the holiday. We have an awards banquet, which is coming up. The theme this year is It's How You Play the Game. We have created a board game, resurrecting the board game from 20 years ago, Oak Harbor Opoly, and we sold out of our properties. As soon as I sent the email, within 24 hours, all our properties were sold out. The chance cards are sold out. The community chest, anything I could sell, we sold. So we have a board game that we're going to introduce on the 23rd of February. We have a senior tea every year. The mayor was our guest. One time, Councilman Omberg was our guest to that a couple years ago. This past week, the mayor was our guest, and we enjoyed him very much, and our seniors did also. We love that. And membership appreciation picnic, Amazing Race is going to copy the idea of the Amazing Race that's on TV. We're going to have one going through Oak Harbor. Next slide. And we have a little fun along the way. Many of you know that we just launched for the second year Welcome to the Rain Shadow, and that is a product by Rainworks, which is dry when it goes on as a stencil. And then, can you replay that? And then as it rains, the stencil actually shows up. We put over 100 of them throughout town. We got some energy, so next year we're going to sell them, of course. We're going to sell them, and hopefully we have 300 of them all over town. So we also have the Frozen Fridays, which is a fun thing. Would Be Coffee sponsors every Friday a contest in which we bring frozen mochas to a business that wins. We also, this year, I was told to lighten up a little bit, so we offered, the staff got together and planned the Chamber of Secrets and had a Halloween theme in our conference room, and I supported that wholeheartedly, so I lightened up a great deal. Next slide. Welcome to the island. This is the part that's probably most interesting to you, and that is our Visitor Information Center. And instead of quoting all the numbers, I brought with me the guest book, and I'm going to just ask if we can pass it around. It gives you an idea of how many people we touch from different countries, from how many different states, and this is just one sample of them. So, and even in our community connectors, we don't say the word no. If somebody comes in and asks about something, a man asked where he could find a suit. Well, as we all know, you can't buy a man's suit on the island, but my staff can't say no. So they Googled, and they told the gentleman, it will take you 36 minutes to get to Kohl's, and you can buy a man's suit. So they just don't they don't say the word no. Our number one requested item in our Visitor Information Center, believe it or not, is still a map. People want a real paper map. So we make sure that they have that. So we operate, not quite yet. We operate the Visitor Information Center. We operate the Wow Wagon, which got rewrapped last year, and then also the interior was completely remodeled. We send out tourism packets and relocation packets, and then swag bags for any kind of reunion or any gathering. The chamber will give them a welcome bag to the community. Next. And our website and social media. Oh, now what am I supposed to do? There we go. There we go. This is a 15-second spot, which is now on social media and on the ferries, thanks to the grant from the City of Oak Harbor for marketing. And on the left-hand side is a picture of our homepage, in which August of 2017, we had our highest hits per month, which was 12,200, and we contribute that to the music festival and all the energy that event generated. So that's kind of exciting. Next. Outdoor Enthusiast Paradise. In your packet also is the brochure in which we showcase not only events, but all the things to do for outdoor enthusiasts on the island. And our community events. This year, a slight change will be Holland Happening and international festivals. So we will still have Holland Happening, we will still have the Dutch Heritage celebrated, but each city block downtown will now have showcasing the diversity of our community. So we have a Philam block, we will have a Tribes block, we will have an Irish block, a Hispanic block, I'm going to forget one and I'm going to get in trouble. We have 6, so I missed one. I'm so sorry. Anyway, so it's going to take a slight change. It'll still be Holland Happening. We'll still have the town crier in the front of the parade. You still have to decorate your floats in tulips, but we're changing up the street fair a little bit to say an international festival. We think it will be very well received, and the committee has certainly put a lot of thought and time into that. Of course, our 4th of July festival that in 2016 received USA Today Reader's Choice Award of one of the top 10 best 4th of July festivals in the country. We're pretty proud of that. And our newest event 2 years ago started Crab Cakes and Cocktails. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Did I do that? I want the little crab to dance. There we go. All right. So we launched Crab Cakes and Cocktails. Our first year, we sold 100 tickets to see if it would be well received. The second year, we sold 200 tickets, and it was extremely well received. And this year, I'll say it, we want to sell 500 tickets. It's held the last weekend in July, and it really launches crab season. There's lots to eat and drink. We have honorary bartenders. I think new council members, you haven't had the opportunity yet, but you'll be solicited to be our honorary bartenders. Anyway, and let's see, annual golf tournament, that raises all the money for the New Year's Eve fireworks show. Sound by the Sound is a great little musical event at Windjammer that celebrates the last day of school for the kids. We have a couple vendors down there and some music. All right, next. Community partnerships. Already this year we have locked in our Oak Harbor Music Festival with their rack card on the ferry program. Whidbey Island Marathon, we just picked up their rack cards today, in which they receive a pocket on the ferries through certified folder. And PBY Museum and Gary Oak Society both have beautiful displays right in the chamber lobby of the Visitor Information Center. Military Appreciation Picnic, we partner with Navy League. And then, of course, the Veterans Day program, we also partner with Navy League. Community partners, this is just a great long list of what it takes to do the chamber. We're just a staff of two full-times and 2 part-time employees. We are extremely dependent on our community partners and our volunteers to do everything that we do, and we couldn't do it without these partnerships. This is a couple samples of the current marketing. The 2 that you have in your packet are the Oak Harbor Art Tour that we put together with partnership with the Art Commission, and then Welcome to the Island, which has the events and the outdoor activities. Whidbey Playhouse and the Whidbey Marathon and Save the Date for the Music Festival, those are all brand new, and they're all going to be in the pockets of certified folders on the ferries because of their partnerships with the Chamber. Marketing, this is a great sample of some of the ads that we run. We have an advertising, we have a marketing committee that works, and there's a list of some of the places, most of those places we've all advertised with in the past year and will be in the next year. So we're pretty proud of that. It's evolved into some great, an invitation to experience Oak Harbor on Whidbey Island. We're pretty excited about that. So with that, I will say thank you to the City of Oak Harbor for your help. The Visitor Information Center runs because of your operations grant that you approved for us to have. And then the marketing arm just gets better. It just, every year we make it bigger and better. The partnerships with the other events in the community are phenomenal. 365 days a year, that website is getting hits, and we are proud of what we do. And I just thank you. So from chamber members, from the board of directors, the ambassadors, there's over 35 ambassadors that just own this Chamber of Commerce with me, and all our volunteers and our staff that works tirelessly. This is the coolest team I've ever had, and I'm just really proud of them. So thank you for everything. That's it. Was that too long? I'm sorry. Thank you.
Hey, well, on behalf of the city, I'd like to thank you, Christine. We have a great partnership in my estimation. I think I've told you that time and time again. The city I came from actually did their own visitor information, and they don't hold a candle to having you do it for us. And I noticed in your expense report here, you show a 40.5% staffing expense, which most private businesses would envy that. So well done, and thank you. Anyone else on council? Okay, we appreciate you. Okay, we'll move on to item 3 here now on the agenda, which is citizen comment period. Citizens may comment on subjects of interest not listed on the agenda or items listed on the consent agenda. To ensure comments are recorded properly, please state your name clearly into the microphone, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes to ensure all citizens have sufficient time to speak. So, citizen comment period is open. And I'm not seeing a mad dash to the podium, so, okay. We don't need 3 minutes even. So we'll go on to item number 4, and that's the consent agenda. I did introduce, looks like Les has had to leave, but we've got items A through F on the consent agenda. Anybody? Okay, seeing no action on that, then they'll be approved as presented. And I think that I am next on comments, mayor comments, section 5. Two things. First off, I was last week, I was at the City Action Days. When was that last week? It was January 23rd, 24th, 25th. I guess it's a little longer ago than that. And I had, I think we had 6 of our councilors there. I had several meetings during that time period that were very good educational meetings. Had an opportunity to have a couple of private meetings, and it was a busy time and interesting time. Also, just this weekend, Rhonda and I were presented as Mr. and Mrs. Valentine at the Phil-Am Association. Their Valentine's party. They have an election process, and Rhonda and I got selected to be Mr. and Mrs. Valentine for 2018. So I'm displaying my trophy.
The clapping is for Rhonda.
And now we'll go to council members. Anyone? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
I want to thank the council members that were able to make it in their schedule to come to AWC Action Days. It was sold out this year for attendance. It does make a difference, and I hope the new council members got a lot out of it. And put on your calendar, June 26th to the 29th in Yakima is the conference. So there'll be more room. They can have more individual workshops. It'll be casual attire instead of legislative attire. And I'm hoping to see many of you there.
What dates again? June?
26th to 29th of June.
Okay. Okay, great. Anyone else? Yes, Councilor Servadius.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to reiterate my thanks to our officers and to Phil Matthews. You know, you take those things for granted, police, fire, when everything's working great, you don't give any thought to it. I know that especially the officers as well as our firemen work very hard. And then you think of our wastewater treatment plant operators. Most of us want to just push that little lever and forget what happens after that. And I actually have a funny Phil, I don't think it's funny, it's a good Phil Matthews story. When I was early on council, Phil came up, and I wish he would have stayed for this. I was in the grocery store, and he came up and he said, "Are you Joel Servadius?" And you're like, oh boy, you know, usually followed up by, "Have you got 5 minutes, or I watch you on TV?" And he stuck out his hand, smiled, and said, "I just appreciate you guys and all you do." And it was at the time when we were making some of those siting decisions for the wastewater treatment plant. And so I've never forgotten Phil Matthews, and he came up to me in Safeway and just stuck his hand out and said, "Are you Joel Servadius?" And I was glad that he introduced himself, and we sat and talked for a little bit. So Phil, we appreciate you too. Hey, the other thing I wanted to touch on was we passed as a council this past fall Resolution 1717, which addressed some of the issues with Wrights Crossing and the UGA expansion. And I've been trying to follow that project as closely as possible. And I had a discussion with the mayor and with Dr. Merriman the other day, realizing that I have, you know, if I have a conversation with Scott Thompson or someone, I might have information that I want my peers to have. And so I asked them if we could schedule some kind of a workshop or a special meeting where they could come in and give us kind of an update as to where that project's at, what's going on. And I think they both agreed that we could somehow get that on the schedule. So I don't know where to take it from there, but I'd like to try and find a time to get an update from that project.
Okay. Anyone else? I think we do have it. We do have at least a discussion about a time period coming up.
We do. We're looking at the week of the 19th, and we'll see what day we can fit in there and contact council members to see if that works with your schedules.
19th of which month?
Of this month.
Okay. We'll expect a contact then. Thank you. Anybody else? Council comments? Okay, we'll move on to item number 5C, City Administrator. Dr. Merriman?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just quick comments tonight on our schedule this month. Of course, we do have tonight's meeting. February 20th will be our next full City Council meeting at 6 o'clock. We are scheduled for our monthly workshop on February 28th. That'll be a pretty busy week around here. We're actually doing what's called a Kaizen process that week with a number of our staff, and that is, sometimes we've heard about Lean Six Sigma and that, and building efficiencies in the processes. So a number of us will be going through a week-long process that week, mainly in our planning and engineering areas, looking at some development review processes we do and see what things we can do to put some efficiencies there. So that'll be that last week of February as well. And then my last item is Brett with the treatment plant report.
We have a new. Okay. Good evening. It's time for a clean water facility project update. We said goodbye to a friend last Saturday. Our tower crane moved out, and it was pretty military-like project. It was actually pretty interesting. These things are designed to be taken up and down. The machine actually came down. We started at 7:30 in the Saturday morning, and we're done. It was up and gone by 3 o'clock, so it was actually pretty fun. We used a relatively large crane to take it down. That's a 350-ton crane. That's the first piece coming off of it. The interesting thing is they use a specialized crew for this. These guys just drive all over the country putting these things up and down. It's, like I say, it's very intricate, very choreographed, but it's also pretty brute force at times. I got a kick out of this guy. He was up there. I was close enough to hear the language, but that was not moving very well, so he applied some leg power to it. That's a picture of the crane that took it down, and the interesting thing was, is as interesting as the above ground stuff is interesting and dramatic, the work happens here because the driver in this thing is getting that stuff from the ground, disassembled on a truck and out. We are in a very small space. So it was quite impressive to watch, and like I said, it happened very fast, and that included 45 minutes for lunch too. So it went very well. I drove home that night, and I looked at the skyline, and it was gone. So unfortunately, that little thing there is that we had 2 cranes there. The little one is its replacement, and it's just not the same. Design-wise, we have advertised GMP number 13, which is Windjammer Park. Those packages are on the street. We are opening bids on March 1st, so I hope we'll have some news for you pretty soon. We're continuing to work on our SCADA software development and the factory acceptance testing. We've been sending people to witness these tests. So these are big control panels, computers, and that type of thing. So we got Phil Matthews is actually at that last week, and we got a good report back on the equipment. Again, he was pretty impressed by it. And we are continuing obtaining permits for the park project. Construction-wise, concrete is about tapered out. We have a couple more slabs and we're done. GMP number 80 is completely done, so I see concrete being done by the middle of this month. We are continuing to backfill around structures as we go along, starting to hit that pile a little bit. A lot of our construction work is on GMP number 9, which is mechanical, electrical. If you go inside the buildings, it's a pretty busy place. A lot of machines showing up, which is kind of fun because it's starting to look like it's going to actually treat something. GMP number 11 is all the architectural part. That is moving quite along, quite fast. We're still been hanging at 105 workers on site, but that's starting to taper down. So I think we'll be at about 100 next week. The self-perform framing for the administration building is going quite nicely. It was an interesting story is that crew that we're using out there for the self-perform is a local. All the crew is actually from town here, and they've taken it on and really have done an outstanding job on some complicated framing. And Hoffman wants to take them back to Seattle, so I'd like to compliment our own crew on that. We're still doing a lot of masonry work. The CMU work is almost complete, and we're starting to work on the veneer bricking, so that's moving along quite nicely. We have one more roof left to put on, that's the Headworks building. Funding-wise, we did get our new loan agreement from SRF for the $29 million, so that's in place pretty soon to start drawing on that for our cash flow. And we're still pursuing Windjammer Park funding opportunities. Schedule-wise,
I have to admit this, I've been using this schedule now for a year, and it's been very handy because we've remained on it pretty well, but we're starting to go off the end. And so hopefully in the next meeting, I'll have something that, it's all behind us now. And so we'll talk a little bit more in detail about what's going on. Some of the activities that were a long time ago, we kind of, was a vision, are starting to become real and starting to have to put some detail to them. We're starting to talk very seriously about startup. There's a lot of activities going on that. And I want to reiterate that is we're still looking to start it up this summer. But once we start it up, it's a prolonged process. We'll describe that more detail to you. But once we start the process, we're going to start with clean water, we go to dirty water. It takes a while for the process to grow. So it's not like driving off a lot. So it's going to be a 3 or 4 month process bringing this thing online. Everybody's pretty excited about it, and there's a lot of training and a lot of planning and activities going on with that. If you want to find out more about the project, you can reach us at oakharborcleanwater.org. We have a project phone at 914-7000, or you can call our work extensions. Reach us at treatment plant treatment plant at oakharbor.org. We do have community drop-ins on February 12th, and we have been doing a lot of tours. So if a group wants to do a tour, hopefully we can arrange for something. I think we've done probably 4 or 5 in the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I think it's the best way of showing people what we're doing and how dramatic it really is. Questions?
Council, questions? Yes, Councilor.
I have a related, maybe unrelated question. We recently had an issue the last couple of days with the heavy rainfall. Is there a point in time where we would be able to use the underground storage capacity we have as overflow before the plant's open, or?
No. That's all separated by its own pump station. So, like I say, we'll actually have the new capacity online. Our pumping capacity will be twice what it is now, but no way we could connect it. Matter of fact, we kind of thought we thought about trying to maybe run a pipe over to it, and just wouldn't work. It was we had a lot of people out there on Sunday, and that was one option we looked at, but just it would have been impossible.
Okay. Yes, Councilor Olmberg.
A couple of quick questions here for you. My questions are always quick. Would you confirm the startup MGDs for that plant, and what is the maximum build out for that facility?
The startup MGDs are 2.7. That's dry weather flow. We'll be able to handle a peak of about 8 or 9. I can't remember the exact number. The number we saw last Sunday was 5.
And that's because of the infiltration intrusion from our...
Yeah, actually, infiltration inflow in our business is very common. As traumatic as it was for us on Sunday, we are actually a better city. We were hearing reports all over that it's much more. So places getting 10-to-1 to dry to peak flow is not uncommon. Mostly it's due to our climate.
The other part of that question was, what is the total buildup? Let's say that the Navy comes online.
Mm-hmm.
What will the footprint for that facility handle when it's totally built out with all of the treatment cassettes or units?
I tell you the truth, I don't know the peak. The 2020, we designed it for a 2060 peak, and I don't have it off the top of my head, but it's probably almost twice as much.
When you get a chance, could you get that information to us?
Yeah. And the thing is that as new capacity comes on, there's ways we can configure that. So hydraulically, we can get it through. There's buy new cassettes. There's also other ways we can process the raw flow. So it's a more complicated question. And is there any? We have a lot of flexibility in terms of long-term growth.
See, I'd like to just know what that
I think
maxed out is.
It's an excellent question. I think as we talk with the Navy in the future, it's going to be real important to us.
Okay. Then if you'd go back to that SRF fund that you put up there of the 29, and there's one thing I would like for you to emphasize for our viewing public. That was 29 million something,
29.
and at 1.2%, and that is fixed over 20 years or 30
Yes,
years?
20.
20 years. 1.2% fixed over 20 years. I'll take it.
Like I say, we've gotten excellent help from SRF, and I think the people, our public is really paying a benefit from that, and we've worked very hard with that relationship, and I think it's paid off for us.
I think in the early days when we were doing an analysis of getting started with this, among other things, we were using something like 5.5% or 6% interest rate. That was current at that time, because we started reviewing this thing in 2010.
Yeah. And it's paid benefits for us.
Anybody who understands the value of the cost savings and the interest will recognize there's a big impact, a positive impact to this community. Thanks very much.
Anyone else? Yes, Councilor
Just
Larson.
a quick question for clarification. I found out that after I was installed in this august body on January 2nd, I was a water treatment facility expert based on the phone calls I was getting after this weekend. So just I want to make sure I understand what you just said. So what we saw as far as what happened on Sunday, once the new treatment facility comes online, we can handle almost double the capacity of what was our worst day in quite some time. Okay, thank you.
By the way, you're welcome to come out and I'll give you a more detailed, I'll get you trained. By the way, Phil, who is here, actually came in at 1 o'clock in the morning to handle that emergency, and went home in the afternoon, ran his router, so I actually stood in for a while. So, he's very valuable, and like I say, it was a tough day, and he was there in the middle of it.
Okay, thank you, Brett. Anything else, Dr. Merriman? Okay. So that concludes the city administrator comments, and we are moving to item number 6A at this time. And to speak during a scheduled public hearing or meeting, please sign in on the sheet, but I'll give you an opportunity even if you didn't sign in. Please ensure comments are recorded properly. Please state your name clearly into the microphone and limit your comments to 3 minutes. And so item number 6A is ordinance number 1802, solid waste, recycling, and yard waste collection and disposal. And I see our city attorney, Nikki Esparza.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. So from wastewater to solid waste, I have this evening ordinance 1802, which repeals chapter 1504 of the Oak Harbor Municipal Code. This particular ordinance represents quite a bit of work between 4 different departments: legal, solid waste, utilities, and some review by development services. Really what we did was collaborate and look at what our practices actually are and try and simplify the solid waste code and make it much more user-friendly, which I think we've accomplished. We went through so many drafts of this particular ordinance. The ordinance as it exists, or the code as it exists now, is a compilation of ordinances that go back as far as 1976. So we have a lot of things in there that are outdated, that are unnecessary, and that don't reflect what we actually do. Anna Thompson introduced this particular item to you at your last workshop, and so you've had a chance, hopefully, to look through the ordinance and ask any questions that you needed to ask. There are 2 changes to the ordinance that you saw. The first one you received by email from the city clerk, and that involves a mandatory upsizing requirement. It's under 1504-090 and subsection C, which talks about requirement to upsize. And it says that the solid waste utility may require the customer to upsize containers in the event the container is consistently overloaded at the time of solid waste utility service. The customer will be required to pay the applicable fees for the upsized container. That is not contained in the draft that was posted online. You do have it in your emails. The other change is one that is in 1504-150, and that one I believe that the city clerk has also provided you a copy of. The only thing that does is delete the word residential from subsection 1, which talks about commercial and residential roll cart services. The monthly charge for each residential roll cart service shall be as set out in the master fee schedule. The word residential is deleted because we're talking about commercial and residential roll cart services. Otherwise, the ordinance is as contained in the agenda and as you saw on the workshop agenda last week or week before last. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. Otherwise, the staff's recommendation is to adopt Ordinance 1802, repealing Chapter 1504 and replacing it with a new code.
Okay, I'll turn this to the public at this time before we talk about it up here. Has anybody got any input or questions? Or okay, seeing none. Council, any questions or input or actions? What do you want to do? Councilor Servadius.
Thank you. I move to adopt ordinance 1802.
Second.
So we have a motion to adopt ordinance number 1802, motion by Servadius, second by Mayor Pro Tem. Any other comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. So we'll move to our last, under 7A, ordinances and resolutions. We have affordable housing recommendation, ordinance number 1824, final plat administrative approvals. I see our Development Services Director, Mr. Steve Powers.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I will actually be very brief, I think, this evening on this item. We had a good conversation with you during your workshop last week. Just the high points. First of all, this is the first item that the city is bringing forward as a result of the Affordable Housing Task Force recommendations. As a quick reminder, that task force was a joint city-county project. They put forward, I think, 39 or 40 recommendations, some of which they recommend the city should do, some they recommend the county should do, some were for both jurisdictions to do. So this is the first one that the city is bringing forward. It is a code which would change the approval authority for final plats. This takes advantage of a recent state law that was put into place that now provides the council flexibility to assign that task to somebody else. And under the new state law, you could assign it to either the Planning Commission or you can assign it to some administrative authority within the city structure. Staff took a look at this for you. Since the review of final plats are almost an administrative kind of process, essentially what we're doing is to see, is that final plat in conformance with the preliminary plat? Have all the public improvements been installed? Are all the bonds in place? It's our recommendation to you that be done as an administrative process and not assigning it to the Planning Commission. As such, we've drafted a code that would assign that to the Office of the Director of the Development Services Department. So the draft code was part of your packet. You also see that there's a recommended motion for you. Our recommended action to you this evening is that you adopt ordinance number 1824, and I'd be happy to help you with any questions.
Before we take that here, I'd like to see if the public has any input or comments or questions. Okay. Mr. Powers and City Council. Questions, input? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Powers, at the workshop, this is great because how our council meetings go, this gives flexibility and a project isn't delayed 2 months because we have our meeting and then on Wednesday they're ready for the final to be.
Yes.
So I like the flexibility, but I remember having the concern that if you are gone, or whoever is our director of development services, that there would be a designated person, but that's not written in the ordinance. So if whoever has that position and they're gone, then that causes a delay. So I thought there was going to be some type of wording, or is that not necessary? Our attorney thinks to have to have that written down, designated
We,
person?
we typically have the authority to designate those administrative tasks. And when you say gone, I'm assuming you mean I'm just out of the office on vacation and not,
You were in Timbuktu
not gone. Yes, thank you for that.
Timbuktu for 2.5 weeks.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, everything comes due at the same time, and it's like, where is he? He's in Timbuktu. So
Routinely,
you
as
can pass it
yeah.
all without that being written in.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
I just want to be sure we still have that flexibility. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Councilor Larson.
After our discussion at the workshop meeting, I looked at this a lot further, and with what some of our goals are as a city council, looking at streamlining processes, making it easier for affordable housing to come in, and to just make this what it actually appears to be, more of an administrative process. I was about to make a motion, but I saw that you had something.
Councilor Olmberg?
I don't want to beat this point to death here that Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem Munns said, but are you certain, this is a question to legal, are you certain that this does not have to be codified so that it's very clear, so that it doesn't attract a challenge by an opposing party if it's not codified?
Generally speaking, we have the ability to designate people to act in our stead in our absence. And so, I mean, it's something that we routinely do. If council is more comfortable with adding the or designee language, it's perfectly acceptable to make the motion to amend the ordinance to add the or designee language.
I would personally feel better about that, more comfortable with it, and I'll tell you why. Because somebody they're submitting a plat, they got a lot of money into this thing, the timeline is really important, and if there is a challenge because there isn't a designee, but it specifically says a person or that department head signs for it. I know working in other jurisdictions, that always seems to become a challenge when we don't go exactly by the word of somebody signing on, because this is a recorded document. And if that person who is designated is not codified, unless we have some other mechanism within our code that allows us just to arbitrarily assign somebody to it, I don't like the idea of a challenge, a potential challenge for that reason.
As I indicated, it is something that we routinely do to designate an alternative individual if the directors are gone. But it is not a problem at all to move to amend the ordinance to reflect the director or designee in the portions of the ordinance that reference director. We can add that in administratively at your motion. It's fine.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that we add the designee administratively into the this ordinance.
Second.
So we have a motion to add the designee designee. We're
So
behind director in this ordinance.
So your motion is to amend the ordinance to add the words "or designee" following director
Precisely.
to the ordinance.
So we have a motion and a second. Motion by Olmberg, second by Munns. Any questions or input? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so now I think we need a motion to approve the amended ordinance. Yes, Councilor Larson.
I motion that we, or I move that we accept the ordinance or number 1824 as amended.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 1824 as amended. Motion by Larson, second by Servadius. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Okay, that concludes the regular agenda. The council will now convene into executive session to discuss a personnel issue. I anticipate that the discussion will take 15 minutes. We do not plan on taking action when we return to open session, and so I invite our city attorney to join us. Okay, at this time, I'd like to reconvene the regular meeting of the Oak Harbor City Council. It is Tuesday, February 6th. We are reconvening after executive session, and no action was taken. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Motion by Wiesner, second by Servadius. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.